What's up, Chris? It's Friday.
It's Friday. Let's go.
Man,
Excited
it's
to
been
be
a
here,
long
Jay.
week.
I know it feels like it's been a really long week. Welcome everyone to On the Rocks, the Ecom Hour, the show where we talk about e-commerce and e-commerce adjacent information, specifically related to technology and tips to run your e-commerce business. I am Chris Gino. He is Jay Kimmelman, and we are your hosts. Last week was our first show on this new show where we introduced our concept for you. This week we're going to fire it on up with advice. We all know that with Halloween now right behind us, the holiday season is just right around the corner. So today we're gonna touch on some last minute pieces of advice before the holidays hit their full scale. We'll highlight typical strategies on our minds and point out concerns you need to watch out for. But before we do that, as always, it's time for the news. So let's get to the news. Uh, First, there were a few different things happening in the tech space that I thought were interesting. The most interesting of those, Jay, is our friends at Meta. They're making the news every week here, just always doing something or
Constantly
another.
making improvements, man. What's going on
Yeah.
there?
This one sounds like a really interesting improvement because they are working on an AI search engine that will because right now their chatbots that go out to scour the internet rely on
Right.
Google and Bing, and they're building their own to do that on its own and to integrate into their chat product. Which is intended to enhance search features and really hone in on targeted marketing. Um, which honestly, as a consumer, sounds terrifying. Um, but but if I were an ecom business owner, like, hey, that's kind of sweet. But I think I think it's that becomes like a really uh, things get to really mattering there when they can search the internet on your behalf and then target the marketing right to you based on the conversations you're having with their internal chatbot about
That is
whatever
true.
it might be. Uh, so yeah, Meta getting all in your life, but before you know it, they'll be
But they've
buying
already
things
been in
for you
our
or
life.
something.
They've been in everybody's life. I mean, they're
That's
an
right.
integral part of our life. And that's
That's
what
true.
they want to be and where they want to be. So that's, I think they're meeting their OKRs. That is their objective. And
Yeah.
that's exactly where they want to be. They want to be
Right.
between us. They want to know what's going on. And they're trying to be like we are within our advisory clients. We want to be that value added, you know, part of that relationship. And
Right.
that's what they want to do as well. I mean, yeah, can't blame them.
That's exactly right. No, absolutely, and I think that that's definitely true, right? Um, and and I think that's the reason why they're working on trying to be able to give you that extra layer of information about your potential customers, right? Is because that advertising now becomes more valuable. So it's the same thing, right? It's more valuable to you as the business owner, and it's more valuable to them because
Yeah.
you'll pay a premium for it. So I'm not saying it's a bad idea. That's definitely really it was mind blowing to see that they're all right. They're
Yeah.
doing this now. Let's go. But man, they're doing lots of different stuff. Um, Speaking of doing lots of
You
different
triggered
stuff.
me. You trigger me there because this week I
Oh
was on a
no!
call talking to somebody, and we went through like 6 or 7 different apps. We're looking at it, and dang it, 10 minutes later after that call, I'm on social, and I got all of them in my feeds. It's like, all right, I gotta just start browsing in incognito mode. That's it. You know,
There you go. Right.
it's like,
Well,
wow. So they're all
well,
up in my shit.
yeah, and it's going to be even that much more, right? That's the idea, right?
Yep,
If you're using
exactly.
whatever Chat GP, Facebook, or whatever, Facebook GPT, right? If you're using
Yeah,
Facebook
yeah, yeah.
GPT, they're gonna just be the how do how do you cook almonds the right way or whatever? Like you're suddenly gonna be like roasted almonds just for you. You don't even have to cook them. We can just deliver them to your front door for a small fee.
Yeah.
Whatever it'll be. I mean, that's again, maybe that's great. Maybe that is the future that we need, right? But it also has its drawbacks, and so I'm sure we'll talk about both sides of that as we continue seeing what happens in the world here. in other news, Salesforce is launching e-commerce storefronts in their starter and pro suite series. Now, I wasn't a this was a little really short blurb in a summary article that I read, so I don't know all the details of this, but it sounds like Salesforce is working with their customers to be able to like help you to support like an e-commerce website, right? So that you have a direct spot for people to come buy your things, which I think is great, right? If you're using them already and you can double dip, it's the same idea as what we were talking about with Meta, right? As they're just looking for those other opportunities, that same type of thing, to be able to make things easier for you. And we've been talking about that kind of stuff for a really long time here on the show, because we want to make sure that you want to make sure that your customers are having the easiest time as possible to be able to purchase their products, right? To purchase your products, and that's just what Salesforce is doing too. They're just trying to make that whole basket of things you're buying from them that much easier to utilize.
Well, if you're using their platform, and they do have a commerce platform, and we have a number of clients that use them, and they do invoicing directly out of Salesforce and sync over to Xero and do all of that. So,
Yeah,
I mean, if you're already there and using it for the CRM, why not use it for e-commerce and just go with it? I mean, you just got to make it as easy as Shopify is, and as well performing as Shopify is, to make sure you can keep them there, though. And that's the key.
right. Yeah, and so I guess we'll see how effective that is, uh, and whether they are able to do that. So we'll find out. um, I I saw what I only even layered down three here, but I saw like five or six different versions of this. But payment providers are like not fooling around, and that probably makes sense given the time of years that it is here. PayPal and Global Payments, which I think may be associated with Venmo in some way, but they're collaborating to create Fastlane, which is a product that's going to allow like accelerated guest checkouts. So really similar, I think, to the way that Shop works right now, where or Shop Pay, where you can just click through once without having to do much, and be able to pay through a bunch of different platforms. So there's that payment thing happening. Klarna, who is one of the buy now pay later options like Affirm, they're integrating with Apple Pay, which is a little bit surprising that they weren't already integrated with Apple Pay, but uh, they're continuing to increase that consumer ease, right, to be able to make purchases. So they're partnering up with Apple Pay, and then Sezzle, which is another payment option, is working with Shop Plaza, who's a commerce platform as well, to allow flexible payment options as well. And so there's just all kinds of versions of this. I also saw that Visa is working on doing something that's making payments easier. It just seems like everybody's trying to make payments as easy as possible and as quick as possible, and introducing AI into the payment structure. They're taking our advice, Jay. They listen to the show, making the consumer experience that much easier and giving them a nice variety of options. That's continuing to happen in the payment provider space. So just look out for who your marketplace is partnering with, and who you want to make sure that you're partnering with. And actually, we'll probably talk a little bit more about that later. One last piece of tech news: a company who included in their name, Jay. They included in their name the brackets that are in the show notes. There, they're called Cafeteria, bracketed, and they are connecting with teens to get product insights, which I thought was a really interesting strategy. Oftentimes, right, a lot of the consumer activities probably through the people who are making purchases through their phones, right? The people with jobs, the people who are the parents, right? The people who are ultimately making the payments. But this platform, this app, is designed to go like basically. I think the cafeteria pun is like a pun on the old high school cafeteria, where they're going to high schoolers effectively to get feedback on, hey, what are you using, what are you working on, how do you like it. It looked like there were over 200 brands and something like maybe 60,000 products already being reviewed and being touched on. So I think anytime that you can get different perspectives on your product from the different layers of your potential consumers, like it's really, really valuable. And so it's good to see that that someone has considered this market, um, because I don't know that everyone has. Jay, any thoughts
Well,
on
it's
that?
taken up. I mean, they just raised $3 million. So
No, is that right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
There you go.
So I
All
mean, they've
right.
got something on their hands here. It looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I
Yeah.
might
So I think
check
it's
it out. I mean,
yeah. Never know.
yeah, I am the teenager.
Oh, you're.
Yeah. I was sure it's gonna. I used to say I'm like the oldest or youngest 50-something-year-old millennial or something like that, but it's hard to put that in teens there, considering I have an 18-year-old daughter. So yeah, I'm not doing
Yeah.
that. But I mean, I think it's a great idea, and
Yeah.
obviously so does the investment worlds if they've just raised 3 million. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome.
Great. Right. So I'm sure we'll hear more from them as we continue forward. If you have a product, especially one that connects with teenagers in some way or another, like this is probably a space that you want to watch out for and be aware of, so that you know what's happening there. And that Jay is tech news, unless I missed anything. All right, tech news it is.
That's good. Yeah.
On into like regular basic e-commerce news. Our friends at Amazon, they never don't make the news, and here they are making the news again. They are they're doing like a test pilot run of displaying seller ratings in their searches. And obviously that becomes really important if you're an e-commerce seller on Amazon, because you want to know what people are seeing about you. I think this is a good thing, right? Because
Yeah.
you want the consumer to know if like they're gonna like get a bad product because the seller reviews are lousy. And then of course, like if you consistently deliver excellent product, like you want that consumer to know, so that they
You
can
might
rest
you
assured that
might
they're getting what you need.
be you might be more likely to jump in and look at the ratings if you or their reviews if you see the
Mm-hmm.
ratings, and jump in there and
Yeah.
say, I wonder why they're not 5.0,
2 stars.
why they're 4.99,
Yeah.
and read about it. See, what was that one review that caused that.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah. So again, it's worth making sure that your rating is accurate for that as well. You want to be vigilant about this, and make sure you know what's going on. eBay. Speaking of ratings and reviews, eBay actually changed their feedback system recently here, because they're going to allow the removal of like certain negative reviews, specifically associated with those where like they bought a product from you, but they either didn't like it or tried to send it back or returned it, and you were like, hey man, I'm sorry, like our policy is no returns, like I custom made that for you. Like that's not how it works. And those types of reviews, if you get those like 1 star, like they're gonna allow you to start pulling those out. So I think that's helpful to some degree. Like you want to know the you want to know those situations where the seller's often maybe not delivering quite the best product, but at the same time, like you don't want the product itself to be punished, as a result of just generally unhappy customers rather than like actually bad products or whatnot. So I think this is certainly, if you're selling on eBay, this is a good thing, because you don't want to be punished for those types of situations that are effectively outside of your control.
yeah, especially if it's against your policies that you've already stated.
Right.
It's like, come on, don't hold that against me. You knew that when you purchased the product. So
That's right. They're not.
yeah,
It's not always going to look exactly like the picture. We put that in the notes. We put that in the notes.
right.
So yeah, I think this is a good thing. So be aware of that, especially again if you sell on eBay. Know that you can get rid of some of those bad ones if you have something like that occur. The last couple different things here are well, no, hold on. Amazon made the news here a bunch of different times. I'm going to start with this. There were the Brotherhood of Teamsters, which is a union of some sort. They are targeting specific Amazon delivery drivers in California, Illinois, and New York specifically. to try to like up people's wages and make sure they have good working conditions and all of that stuff. Which all of those things are like typically a good thing. But naturally, as is always the case with unions, Amazon's fighting back. Um, and in this particular case, they have what seems like a pretty reputable case in that the drivers don't drive for Amazon directly. They're not employees of Amazon. They work for the delivery service partners. So they work for third parties, and they're paying a third party. And so it would be pretty difficult to enforce like union related activity on those drivers that are working for these third party companies. So I don't expect that there will be much that comes out of this. But of course, like anytime there's this type of thing, like somebody's going to figure out some way to like continue to have those kinds of conversations around it. Um, Obviously, if you're an e-commerce seller, right, especially on Amazon, delivery drivers rates and things going up has an impact on you, because Amazon's not just going to eat those costs. They are going to pass those on to you. So it's something to be aware of, especially if you have multi-channel activities. That the price of Amazon could potentially go up a little bit, especially if you sell in California, Illinois, or New York. Um, but it's also like very likely that nothing happens. We'll see what goes on here, right? There's the drivers also would have to elect to be in the union, right? You don't get in unions just because somebody asks you to be in a union. That's not how unions work either. So there's a lot of different stuff that still needs to happen there, I think. But it will be a thing to follow, and especially as we go through the holiday season into the new year, it won't be something that you want to at least understand and have on the top of your mind. Amazon also made a news article that I was reading in that not surprising. I mean, this probably isn't all that surprising, but it was something that I had never really thought about. And Jay, maybe it will be a full on topic for another show. But not everything sells well on Amazon. There are certain products that are resilient against that Amazon selling space. Certain products that are more effectively sold in a storefront or through a like very purposely driven website. The article that I read around this was talking about camera supplies or bicycles, where if you think about like REI or companies like that, Dick's Sporting Goods, like those types of places, I'm sure they sell lots of bicycles, and bicycles can be a thing where you still have a little local shop where you can go talk to somebody because you want to understand like how does it feel, like how heavy is it? Like these are all important questions to ask when you're buying something like that, and it's not like bicycles are cheap either. And they are
sizing them is so important,
right, and then there's just so much flexibility around it, right? So it's
right.
those types of things that just don't make sense necessarily on an Amazon marketplace because they're not going to sell as effectively. And so the reason that I brought this up as an e-commerce point of note was like it does kind of it is a very important thing to do as an e-commerce business owner, especially if you're making the decision to sell on Amazon, to think about that particular thing. Is my product going to actually sell on Amazon, or does somebody need like a little extra advice? Do they need to ask some questions about it? Do they need to know a little bit more about the product before they actually purchase it? And so that can be a marketplace decision maker that I thought was at least relevant.
Yeah, that's a great thing to consider, though. That
Right.
I think that is a great topic for future.
Yeah. Right. I thought so too.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So we won't touch on it that much more, but just be aware, especially like if you're making that decision right now. Not everything sells great on Amazon. Some things do have some struggles there for a variety of different reasons. A couple other things of note. This isn't shocking. No one's going to be surprised by this, but AI cyber attacks are on the rise. So they continue to happen. Especially as the technology continues to grow in the AI space, like the phishing opportunities and and all of those different types of things, engineering deals, whatever they are called. Like they just keep happening. So be vigilant. So again, So there's not much more to say about that except hey, that's happening. We will actually talk a little bit more about that later too. And then finally, the final piece of news is a second survey came out from Bain and Company that indicated a variety of different things about holiday shopping, which I think is a very relevant point to talk about as the last piece of news here. 76% of consumers expect to buy at least half of their goods for the holiday season online, with 47% planning to shop in the brick and mortar stores, which is actually consistent with with a survey that we had seen a couple weeks ago. That was something like 50, 52, 55% planning to shop in brick and mortar stores. So not a big shock there. A surprising number, at least from my perspective, and maybe this speaks to me uh, more than the market as a whole. But 31% of the people surveyed don't have enough extra money for non-essential purchases, which was a little bit sad. But in positive news, that's down from 39% from last year. So that does mean that there's probably going to be a little excess capital in the marketplace this year in comparison to last year. But it is definitely disappointing that 31% still don't quite have enough to be able to make those extra types of purchases. An interesting thing is that 23% have used international apps, so like Temu and Shein. And only, but also very comparably, 19% plan to use those same platforms for the holidays. Now, I thought that was pretty interesting because my Twitter timeline has just had Temu ad after Temu ad after Temu ad, which once I thought about it a little bit more, I was like, oh, it's a really good marketing strategy, actually, because it's the if you're one of those platforms, and it's the time of year to get in front of people, and so I had not thought about it. I've just been like, annoying ad. But 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 then I started to think about it a little more logically like this. I'm like, oh, actually that's sure, it's annoying, and I'm probably not going to buy from Temu, but at the same time, like, that's good timing. It actually makes sense. I get it. Yeah, $235 for this pajama outfit. Yeah, that's a good price.
Have
So
you
the
ever
thing that
accidentally clicked on one of those ads from Temu?
I have not yet, not yet.
Have you ever ordered
Um,
anything from Temu to start with?
I have not. No, I had not. I
Okay.
have not. I am not part of the
So I
23%.
did.
I'm on the other side. Yeah.
I did purchase something from Temu some time
Uh-huh.
ago
Yeah.
and deleted the app off my phone, the whole deal.
Yeah.
And, it was a picture of something. I wanted to see the rest of it. And I didn't realize it immediately opened the app, reinstalled it, the whole deal.
Oh no.
Yeah. So it's a
Wow.
little aggressive.
Yeah, that's pretty bold.
Yeah.
That's a bold marketing strategy. Um, but it's working for at least 23% of consumers.
It
So
is working. Yeah.
yeah. And so again, if you sell a product that is also sold on, I mean, and I guess we can again talk about this a little bit more later, but like if you're selling a product that has a comparable on one of these sites, you need to be aware of that so that you understand like the
Hmm.
situation that you're in, and the competition that you have there, because 23% is not that's not nothing. That's a big chunk. Um, so so definitely be aware of that. And then finally, and most critically, I think this is very very relevant. 55% of consumers plan to start shopping for the holidays here in November. So it is go time. If it wasn't already, I think 20 something percent who are planning to start in October. So maybe it was already go time. But it's really, really go time now here on November
Well, I
1st.
mean, we're only 4 weeks from Black Friday, so yeah,
Yeah, it
I
makes
would
sense.
expect that number to be higher than 55%.
Again, I think the earlier, like it was 25 or
Yeah,
30% in October. So if you think about
gotcha.
like that's now like
Yeah,
85% between October and November.
gotcha.
There's some laggards that are like waiting. I'm gonna get the Christmas
Gotcha.
sale at Christmas. So um, so again, it's time. That's the most important piece of information here, and that's exactly what we'll talk about in a
Yeah.
minute. But before we get to that, Jay, it's Friday. It's on the rocks. Is there anything on the rocks today? We have water on the
No,
rocks, coffee on the rocks.
I have water on the rocks over there, and I
Yeah,
have warm coffee here, and
yeah, not
put
on the
it in
rocks.
this cup specifically to keep it warm for the show. So
Nice,
yeah.
nice. I love that. Today
Normally,
we,
normally on a Friday, I'm done after this. I have another call after this today. So,
yeah,
ooh,
right.
light at the end of the tunnel. That looks
That's right.
interesting.
Yeah,
I love
it's
the
fun.
packaging.
Definitely fun. Yeah, Equilibrium. They have these fun packaging. I actually think I may have highlighted this beer before. So oops. But it's a good one.
That's okay. Yeah.
And then should I finish that one, which I probably will. We got a Halloween style black lager here from 903 right up the street, called Whoa What a Night, with Wednesday on there. Um, uh, so a Halloween themed one. So that'll be next if we get through the first. All right. So on on to on to our main topic. Anytime that we get close to something happening, right? The line that always comes to my head is the one from the one that Doctor Strange used, in Infinity War, where he where they show up on, I don't know, whatever it is, Titan, and are fighting Thanos, and he says right before he uh, whatever, what is it, dusts, right before he dusts, he says, "We're in the end game now." And that's exactly how I feel about the holiday season. Like, we're in the end game now. Like, if you haven't been doing a lot of things previously, like, it's probably a little bit too late to do some of the like real good planning and that kind of thing. But you're not all the way out of the woods. But we are in the end game, so it's time to go like hunt down Thanos, go back in time to get some Infinity Stones. Spoiler alert, all that, um, and 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 break the whole time cycle, right? Like, this is your chance. This is your last chance to make any final edits, final updates, and final changes. And so we'll talk through a few of those that we think are relevant, and a few of those that we think are important. So what should you be doing? Um, the first thing that I think is extremely important to do right now, and I actually read a relevant article on this. And again, Jay, I think that's probably a topic for another show, so we won't go super in depth. But that's to finalize and optimize, or continue to optimize your SEO. You want to make sure that you've done all the things that you need to do to make sure that if somebody is looking for your product, that they find it. And so that starts with titles and descriptions. That means making headlines relevant. That means including really relevant product details. That includes providing useful text for the consumer, not just for the search engine. Like, you want it to be something where when somebody reads that thing, they get good value out of it, not just like, keywords or whatnot. Um, you want, within your website, you want that to link around appropriately so that everybody knows where it's going, and you can cross use some of that information. You want to make sure you also have category navigation so that you can emphasize that, so you can get to the right type of product. If somebody's looking for something, they don't just go to your homepage, they get to the thing that they're looking for, or things that are like that the category. And then finally, you want to use breadcrumbs. So you want to like break down like, what's your site structure look like, so that people can easily navigate it, and in the search engine can as well, so that it knows exactly where to point people. So again, that's like super 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 like not in-depth conversation around this, but these were some seven different points from an article that I read about ways to optimize your category pages, right? And so this is the time to make sure that that's working correct, because, like I said, 55% are already there, and 30-ish% or something have already been looking. So if you need a whatever it was, brown beer, you want to make sure that if somebody's searching brown beer, they can find you properly.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you use the term finalize SEO, and I think SEO is never finalized. It's one of those
Sure.
continuous improvement things.
I
So
I
I
did,
think
and
finalize it for the season.
that's what I should have said. Absolutely.
Yes, but it honestly is a continuous improvement, and
Right.
I would be A/B testing that for the next couple of weeks. Take two different products and try different strategies with each one, and see what hits. Check your
That's
metrics
right.
on it and see what's actually working during that time period. And it might make some product prop and a product pop, and others do not. So,
Right.
you know, check that out for sure. The other
Yep.
thing, and what made me think is, link to other internal areas of your site. Well, the other thing that popped up in my head was, while you're doing that, also do cross promotion of products.
Mm,
Have similar items in the same category you have, and also what are complementary items in different categories you have that when
right.
you pull up, let's say brown beer, uh, a
Your
Oktoberfest
stainless
comes
steel
up.
mug. Stainless steel mug.
Stainless steel mug. Right, there you go.
Right.
Or a beer stein or something along those lines, whatever.
Of course.
So
Yeah. Right. Complimentary.
that cross promoting is really important. So never forget that.
Yeah, I think that's great advice too. And the A/B testing, like you're right, Jay. Like you're never gonna finalize your because the search engines are continuing to make changes to their own algorithms, right? It's not
For sure.
final,
For
and so
sure.
because it's not final, neither will your SEO be, right? You'll have to continue
Yeah.
to modify it, but
And
you
the
need it to
last
be
thing I
like
want to,
ready to go now.
yeah. And last thing I want to say about that is, don't look for perfection. Get it done. Done
That's
is
true.
better than perfect, or now is
Right.
better than perfect. Because if you're looking for perfection, you will be there just analyzing every little bit of it. No, get it done, release it, get it out.
That's right. That's right. You want to make sure that people can find your stuff, even if it's not the best way. All right. The next thing that you need to do, and we've talked about this on the show in varieties of different ways over the past like year. Um, you absolutely have to evaluate your inventory. You need to know whether or not there's like, do you have too much inventory that you need to move? Is there something that you have too little of that you still might have a last minute with like we mentioned this last week, I think, that people are turning to domestic supply chains. Like you might have enough time to like fill an order if you don't quite have enough if you have a supply chain partner here in the US. um, so is there something that, like, is one of your critical products a little bit lower than you would have liked? Like you had a successful October, and now you need to refill at the last moment here. Like if you have that opportunity, like you need to be looking at that. Um,
Well, you
you
also look
also
at supply and demand on that product too.
right,
So if you increase demand for it and you are the only supplier of it, then you want to raise your prices on it, take advantage of that low supply and the
right,
high demand at that moment. Because if
yeah,
you don't at that moment and you can't replenish your supply, you could possibly lose that future sale from there on.
right.
So take advantage of that as well.
Yeah, and I think that that's a good point, and one that I wanted to highlight too is like you also want to understand where your customers are, or not your customers, your competitors. You also want to understand where your competitors are, because if your competitors are running out of their key product that competes with you, that does give you this opportunity to maybe like take advantage of this opportunity, right? Their mistake is your gain, right? You want to you want to be constantly like vigilant about that. um, you also for the and we've harped on this, I think, like 3 or 4 times over the past 6 weeks. But if you have too much inventory, there's probably no better time to get rid of it, and that means that you should evaluate whether you should discount that product even deeper for a holiday sell, just so that you can make sure that you're moving it. And as we talked about a couple different times, that also means like thinking about your warehousing costs and whether it makes sense to move product on the Amazon side because you're paying like a premium because of the premium inventory like demand period pricing right now, or um, or do you have just the right amount over there and we don't need to worry about it, right? Like this is a very important time to evaluate those things, to be thoughtful of those things, and then to be aware of all of the different aspects of your products, including like the cost of inventory, Jay, right? Like isn't that this is an important time to be
Yeah.
thinking about that too, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. It's important to know what your costs are because you want to set your prices based on the current cost. And
Right,
we say that, but we just talk about your excess inventory, your slow moving inventory. You have to pay a little less attention to that because if your intention is to get it off the shelves and out the door, lower the price, just convert it to cash and get it out and get those sales. Let's not harp on those numbers because you're not replenishing that. You're not counting on that. What you want to do is look at those items that are the staples of your inventory. And just yesterday, I was talking to somebody about this, and you know, if your inventory is not costed properly, and if you're not using an inventory management solution or an ERP to know what your costs are, that you're buying something on a purchase order, you receive that purchase order, and let's say it's $1 a widget, and you're selling it for $1.25, but you didn't realize that it also cost you 15 cents to ship it and receive it in the warehouse, and another 10 cents in duties and
Tariffs.
customs fees.
Yeah, tariffs.
Damn tariffs. They're always popping up. So, that thing right there, so now you're selling it for $1.25. It costs you $1.25. You have no margin. So
Nope.
that 25 cents is the landed part of the cost. And landed cost is the cost it takes to get that product, and the cost to bring it and store it and get it through into your warehouse. And that is the cost you want to evaluate your pricing against. So if you want to maintain a specific margin, you have to know what your landed cost is and apply the landed cost and that percentage to get your selling price. And then it's even more important when you're setting up discounting. You want to make sure you're maintaining a specific margin when you're discounting. You want to make sure, because if you're discounting on something where you're selling at $1.25 and it's costing you $1.25, now you're losing money. So you don't want to be in that situation. So you want to make sure that you're looking at that from a clear and concise perspective, because if not, you're not going to be in a good situation after the holidays when you just sold out of 100,000 pieces of product and you made no or negative margin on
Lost.
it. So
right.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And so that's important to do. And the other side of that is, if you're doing that, let's rephrase that. Not if you're doing that. If you are not calculating your landed cost, you want to make sure that you're protecting your inventory. And a lot of times it's the end of year value of that inventory that you will use with your insurance company to value your insurance and set your insurance coverage at that limit, or somewhere there. So if you are undervaluing your inventory and something happens in the warehouse, God forbid there's a fire, a hurricane, whatever, and that gets wiped out, well, you're not going to be covered for the full cost of your product. So it's important to do that. And that's why we tout having an inventory system to capture your actual cost, so that you know what is in that warehouse at any given time. And from that point, you will be covered and be prepared, and you will have your CYA.
Yeah, right.
Basically. So, yeah.
Right.
But, ultimately, it's to sell all of that inventory during the holiday season and make your margins. This is it. This is the Super Bowl of e-commerce. We are there.
That's right.
We are in the divisional series right now, getting ready for it. So
that's right.
Let's tee it up and take advantage of it.
Yeah, and so after you've evaluated the inventory that you need to sell or that you want to sell, you have a little bit of time probably to double check and cross reference and make sure that you have a good plan in place for your ad spend, and that goes in a lot of different ways, right? The first is, of course, you want to know where you want to spend that money. Do you want to spend it in Facebook in their like super targeted Facebook GPT search engine model? Do you want to spend it with PPC to get a little better placement on Amazon? Or are you just wanting to be like a Google search? You want Google's platform to be the one where you're focused. Like what kind of customer are you targeting? This is the time to be really thoughtful about that, because you want to understand how they're going to convert, and you want that acquisition cost to be as useful as possible here, because this is your best chance to take advantage of that. And so that's an important thing to think about. It's not just like where you want to spend it, but why you're spending it there. And so you do want to be really thoughtful about what your funnel is looking like and what part of the funnel it is that you're trying to touch on as you get to this holiday season. Or do you want the recurring folks to come back again on to bring them back at a whatever 25% discount because it's Black Friday? Are you trying to expand your customer base to bring in people from the top of the funnel to say, hey, I know you've never heard of my product, but here's the reason why it's awesome. Like who are you targeting? And make sure that the ads that you're delivering support what you're trying to do. Because you don't want a super targeted ad to hit the top of funnel. It just doesn't make sense. So you want to be really thoughtful about what your ad spend looks like, and you want to make sure that you've been thinking about how you can deliver that differently, or whether it needs to be changed in the last minute here. And then Jay, we've talked about this several times too. It's extremely important in this situation to build an expectation, right? How much am I willing to spend? What do I expect that to result in? Like what's the ROAS I'm looking for? What's the sales volume that I'm looking for at these different target levels? And then most importantly, probably, is if you're not getting that, or you're getting way more than that, like plan and be willing to adapt. So if you're having way more success than you thought you were, if your ROAS is something like 10, like maybe you need to turn it up a little bit, right? You can turn that ad spend up, let that ROAS decrease a little bit, but be able to sell that much more product. And if your ROAS is more like 2 or something like really, not as high performing as you'd like, you need to be willing to be like, okay, that we maybe didn't hit our mark here, and rather than just funnel a bunch of money into something that ends up not being as good as you want for it to be willing to say, you know what, that didn't work. So understand, like, again, what the situation is, what you're expecting those results to be, and be willing and able to make changes there. I think that also becomes really important in inventory management as well, because if you're having a high level of success but you don't have enough product to keep it up, you may need to adapt in that way too. And that's not the way you'd like for it to happen, but if it does, it does, and you need to make sure that you're being thoughtful about it as well.
Now, if you're
What
tracking that properly, you can tell exactly based on your dollar spend what
mm-hmm.
sales are going to be generated from it and what your inventory needs are going to be. So it's important to
Yep.
do that. And, earlier we talked about A/B testing your copy. Well, I would A/B test your ads before you turn them up, so you could start seeing which are performing, which are not performing, and then go ahead and make the switch and then turn them on. And then if they really kick in, then, go ahead and
That's right.
use and adapt and pivot and do what you're going to do at that point. And
Right.
just, make sure that you do have the product on hand to support it. That's it.
Absolutely. Super, super critical. The final thing that I think is really critical for you to think about as we get into this last couple of weeks, we actually kind of touched on it already a couple different times. There are a couple different, like, of those last minute things to think about, right? Is your payment platforming and payment processing. Be really thoughtful about, like, who you've partnered with and how you want that partnership to work, and do you have the time, or do you need to add like a different payment system or solution like that? This may be your last chance to do that before we get into the final stretch run here. So be really thoughtful about that. And then also understand the cybersecurity risks that you have, because this would be the worst possible time at all to have your website be broken because of a security attack. And so you want to be really thoughtful about what those risks are and what you need to be doing to make sure you're covered and have the ability to start back up business in as much as a moment's notice, if you did run into some problem, if your worst case scenario came true. So I think that those are two things that you this is your last chance to look at and last chance to be thoughtful about before you another this is another Marvel line before you run we are out of time before you're out of time. Um, this is your last chance. Um,
So you talked about the payment platforming, and
mhm.
I think Shopify knocked it out of the park with Shop Pay. You
Yeah,
know, any any Shopify site you go on, it recognizes you and your the cookies from them that they've dropped on your computer, and it links
right.
to your last payment method. And I think Stripe has noticed that too. And Stripe now has Link, and I've noticed it probably about the last 2 months on sites I've been on. And it's like, hey, we'll just shoot you a quick text, verify it's you, and hey, you're set to go. And it's making checkout super, super simple. So
Yeah,
if you are on Shopify, you're incentivized to use Shopify payments, use Shop Pay. And if you are not using Shopify payments and you're using Stripe, make sure link is set up on there because it makes checkout so damn easy.
yeah,
That's the key. Make less
yep,
friction, quicker, more frequent sales. That's all.
yeah.
That's
And now
that's
that we
the
talk
tip.
about it more, I'm 100% certain that that's what PayPal and global payments are trying to do with their fast lane.
Probably,
It's
yeah.
it's probably the same exact type of solution where they're looking to just make that a fast transaction for
Mm-hmm.
you,
Mm-hmm.
make it as easy and as frictionless
Yep.
as they can. And so that's a thing that you definitely, as an e-commerce provider, like you need to be thinking about. And this is your last chance to like do anything about it. It's the same. It's the same, really, too. If you wanted to, if you, I don't know how long it takes to turn on Buy with Prime, but I'm sure like
Yeah.
this would be a chance if you wanted it to be that way. Um,
Yeah, and you just prompted me to think of one other thing. I
yeah,
think most carts now have abandonment software on it and reminders. But if
yeah,
you don't, that is a great investment because I know I will shop for something and it's like I'll get something and my daughter or wife like, hey, I want this. And I will look for it on Amazon, but I will also search and see where I can find it elsewhere. Maybe I
mm,
can get more Delta or American miles if I buy using one of their sponsored uh, platforms, or
sure,
from somewhere else. And it might be
right,
in a cart on three different platforms because I'm shopping it. And
yep.
dang it, next morning I wake up, hey, you left this in your cart. And it's like, oh yeah, I did. Yeah, do I really want that? Or, just cancel it out
Does
with
Abby
a text.
really need it? Does Abby really need
Well,
it?
yeah. Well, we'll get into that in a minute, and we'll talk about
Yeah.
what Abby's what's been going on there.
Oh
So,
boy,
uh, oh yeah, yeah.
exciting.
It's all good stuff. Come on now.
That's good. That's good. Oh, I'm ready. I'm
Yeah,
excited for
yeah.
it.
But
Yeah,
but yeah, yeah. But yeah, cart abandonment. Make sure you're checking out that. So
that's right. Um, and so Jay, that's everything that had come to my mind as I was thinking about
yeah,
this. That was everything that I thought were kind of some last minute do your diligence. This is your chance. If you don't do it now, you just can't.
yep.
Did we miss anything, or is there anything that's come to your mind outside of abandonment stuff? That's a good one.
No, I mean that's really it. I mean,
No.
I went through this and I pinged you over with that cost stuff earlier. But I
Yeah.
think we got a lot of it covered here. But you know what? We
Yeah.
still got 4 weeks till Black Friday. So I am sure in the coming weeks, we will come up
That will
with
come
other
up.
things to remind you about. So,
I'm sure that's true. So let's keep an
yeah,
eye
for
here
sure. Yeah.
for that. Um, all right, and that's our conversation today.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, Jay, tell me about what's going on with Abby.
Yeah. So, yesterday being Halloween, three times this week I got a phone call or a text. Hey, can I get this on Amazon? Can I get this? I'm like, okay. And 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 I think I might have mentioned no, actually it was after that. Wendy
Mm,
ordered something and she's like, "Hey, it should have arrived by now." And I look, it's like, nope, it's getting delivered to Abby at school. We might have talked about this on Tuesday, maybe. So
maybe.
it was something she ordered in the cart, and unfortunately, we couldn't redirect it or stop it or cancel it. So it got sent to Abby. Abby got it and returned it. It's all done. So, but in her case, she's like, yeah, I need to get this to have a party to go to on Halloween, and I need to
Mm-hmm.
get this for a costume for the second party on Halloween, and I need this for tailgating on Saturday. I'm like, whoa, 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 what's going on here? So yeah, she had two Halloween parties yesterday.
And then another like Halloween activity in the tailgate.
Well, we haven't gotten there yet. So yeah,
Oh.
a week ago she started priming me and her mom that hey, I don't think I'm going to make it to class on Friday. I was expecting a late night. Well, she got in at 2:30 and was at her 9 o'clock class this morning.
Get it.
Very shocking. Very
Well,
shocking.
well done by her. Certainly,
Yeah,
she wasn't doing anything out of line at 2:30 in the morning on
I
Halloween.
am sure. I am sure.
Yeah,
But
princess.
well, yeah, and by 2:30, well, actually, I don't know what happened, but yeah, there was something here in Orlando last night downtown, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, so there was
Was it
something there. But I mean,
was it the Orlando Thriller walk or whatever? Like, did you see the?
no,
So did you
it
see
was
the
the
like
Orlando shooting where two people were killed and six others injured.
that? Yeah, that's way
Yeah,
worse.
yeah,
That's
and we've had
not
issues
fun.
downtown Orlando before, and I'm just flabbergasted by this, and you know, that's
Mm.
nothing good happens after midnight.
Yeah,
That's what I tell my daughter. But
sleep.
we're not going to
Sleep is
harp
the only thing
on
good.
this news. But
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I found out she slips to me that oh, I'm the DD. I'm driving my friends, and we're going out to this
Ah.
tailgate in Jacksonville on Saturday. I'm like, Jacksonville on Saturday? It's the Florida Gator Day and the Gator and Bulldog game,
Oh,
which is
oh,
yes,
really?
yes. So she is
Wow.
fully embracing the college spirit here. And yeah, I mean, I'm proud of
Get
her.
it.
But
Good for her.
being the DD and going to the world's largest cocktail party, could be dangerous.
That
Yeah.
being the DD is the right move in that situation. I
Oh,
think.
it's the right move, but might be dangerous for the car. Is what I'm thinking.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
You
So
need more of
got to
them.
prime her up for that.
We need more Abbeys out there. Is what it's.
Oh, for
Let's
sure,
everybody
for
carpool.
sure.
Everyone carpool.
So
Our
that's all good. So yeah, I'm proud of my kid.
yeah,
But Halloween was very very interesting because Wendy was
yeah,
gone
uh-huh,
and Abby was gone, and so
yeah.
I hung with the neighbors and we had like there were eight of us just sitting there handing out candy. And
Nice.
yeah, yeah. So it was fun. It was fun night last night, and hopefully your little one had fun for Halloween last night.
Yeah, this was her first like true trick or treating experience.
Yeah,
And she has a couple little friends from her daycare that are in the neighborhood as well. So we kind of tried to catch up together. One of the little girls is maybe 6 months older, so she was like gone with her older brother. Like they just like see y'all. We're gonna go get all the candy. And it probably took this is very much my daughter, right? It takes her like half an hour to get a little bit warm and be ready to like interact. But once she finally got warm, so we got down. We have a street that's one street over. That's an up and down, maybe like 20 houses on the street total.
yeah.
But it's very festive, and so once we got down, once we crossed the street, she got warm. She was ready to go, and so she walked up to the doors a couple times. She only I don't know if she ever actually got out an actual trick or treat. But she did it at home, which was pretty funny. She's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, okay, I know what to say. You say trick or treat," and I was like, "Yes, that's right. That's absolutely right." But she never did that in practice. But she was brave enough to walk up to the neighbors, like to then like reach into the candy bowl and grab a piece of candy. Um, and she had a great time. Um,
There you go.
yeah, we live on a cul-de-sac, and so I left a. I left. That's not fair. My wife and I left um, a bowl of candy out on the porch with the lights on the house. Um, and based on the evidence that we'd seen on the street that we went down, like I was 95% certain that like whatever like you know dummy high school kid had like poured the whole thing in his bag or whatever his pillowcase. But we got home and it was like 2/3 still there, and
Wow.
Yeah, and because the way that
Awesome.
our so we the cul-de-sac that we live on is off of a road that has only like I don't know, 7 houses on the road, and then our cul-de-sac is off that road, and we have 6 houses total, um, and and the kids just like skip it. Like even when I told them later, so I went back out after later, right? Because anytime you're in that situation, you're like, well, if I don't give this candy away, like I'm gonna have to eat it. And as much as I would
Hmm.
like to do that, my waistline would not like me to do that. So I walked back out after and walked across the street to go like find the kids, and gave away as much as I could. But even when I told them like, hey, I think these folks have some candy up, like they're like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
great, man. I'll see you.
we're done.
So yeah, you're right, exactly. So it was a tough situation there. But all that to
That's
say,
awesome.
my daughter had a great time. We had a matching set of outfits as um, uh, 80s workout stars. So it was good fit session. I'll have to send that to the work people here once we're done recording.
Yeah, there you
But
go.
it was great. And then to top it all off, today is day one of a 3-day potty training experience. So I'm going to get back to you at the end of that for next week. But it's been an exciting day one. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to the rest of the afternoon. I'm sure it'll be great. I'm sure it'll be great.
Yes.
I probably should have just been like, hey, we should probably not record today, but I did it anyway. For all of you out there. So thanks for watching. um, anything else that we should look out for next week? Any big e-commerce activity? Anything exciting?
I'm not aware of anything dropping next week, but I'm sure it
Yeah.
will.
Yeah, and when it does, we'll be here to report it for you next week.
Yeah.
And so as always, thank you all for watching the e-commerce hour here on the rocks. We look forward to being back with you next week to talk about whatever comes to our mind as we head into the final holiday push. So have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Have a great weekend, everybody. We are out of here. See y'all.
Bye.